and gentlemen, welcome to Fashion Avenue News, where only the best will do. I'm your host, Sophia Davis, and tonight we're talking to professional fashion photographer Paul Andre Walker. But before we get to Mr. Walker, we must say hello to our sponsors. Back in just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with Fashion Avenue News TV. And tonight, our guest is Paul Walker, fashion photographer and professional. Paul, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me, Miss Davis.
You look amazing in your red. I just love all this red going on.
Well, I mean, I
Fabulous.
figure at least look presentable for the interview. I definitely appreciate you having me.
Well, thank you for taking time to be with us. Now, what made you first interested in photography in general?
Well, years ago, I used to be a promoter. So as years went on, time changed, the industry changed, and a friend of mine took me to ask me did I want to go to a fashion show slash party. I said, well, okay, party. I was like more interested than going just for the fashion. So he
Mhm.
came along. He said, by the way, I got an extra camera. And I said, okay. He showed me how to use it. He said, just go click around. So I wound up doing that. I did what I thought was the right thing. Later on, after the night was over, I gave him back the camera the next day. He would call me. We talked about the party, which I was more interested about because, back, like I said, I was a promoter. So he said, Paul, by the way, these are some pretty good pictures, man. He said, you ever took photography before? I said, no. He said, you should get your camera. So a couple of weeks passed by, I didn't pay it no mind. So he was asking me again, said, listen, did you ever get your camera? I said, no. So he was kind of pushing the issue. So I said, you know what? Let me just get this camera and just see where this takes me. And one thing led to another.
All right. Well, it certainly did, and you've done a wonderful job. Now, are you self-taught or have you taken lessons, classes, anything like that?
Well, of course, I learned from him. I got
Mhm.
some pointers and stuff like that. And when I used to go to these fashion shows and hung out with some of the more experienced photographers, I would always ask, what's the right steps, you know, about the coloring and stuff like that. And some of the things they taught me, that would be the most important. You got to know, make sure your color is right, the perfect color. Because if you don't have your color, you don't have a good color, you don't have a good picture. So as time went on, it was like being a photographer is like hands-on experience. You got to actually play with your camera, you got to practice, and you got to learn from your mistakes.
Okay. Now, in your opinion, what makes a good photographer? Because everybody that has a camera is not a photographer. they might, run around like a photographer. But we all know that, everybody's not a photographer. What, in your opinion, makes a good photographer?
I think what makes a good photographer is the presentation of your picture, because no matter how expensive the camera is, no matter what you say you can do, your work speaks for itself. So it's like a hands-on resume you're presenting to the world, to the people that you have, or I should say, want to show your work and hopefully get hired for that job or that photo shoot. So it's very important that the picture is clear, it's not blurry, and you're focusing on whether it's a designer and the details or the jewelry and stuff like that. So I think, to me, that's one of the most important things in regards to presenting your work to the fashion industry.
Okay. Now, what are the tools that you think a professional photographer needs? Does he need a light kit? Does he need, what does he need to get started?
Well, you definitely need a professional camera. It don't have to be expensive, but you should definitely have a camera that has the setting of manual, because that way you learn. And like I said, again, it's a hand-on process, because an automatic camera is just an automatic camera. You're letting the camera do the work. But a professional photographer shoots on manual. And for some reason, if he don't get it right the first time, hopefully he'll get it right the next. So that's definitely one thing you got to have, is a professional camera, and stay within your budget. Also, you have to have some type of lighting kit. Maybe not right away, but you eventually got to have lighting, because if you're doing a photo shoot and you're traveling, you don't know what that person or what that location might or might not have. So you definitely need some type of portable lighting.
Okay, well, I think lighting is extremely important. And I think that sometimes people don't give lighting the proper credit, because without light, you really can't have, to me, a good photo. So lighting is extremely, extremely important. Now, you said that when you started, you went to a fashion show and you click, click, click. What type of photography do you do now? Because that was your beginning. Do you do runway, editorial, covers? What do you do?
Well, when I started that, I eventually, like I said, expanded my network, got out to fashion shows and events. And I'm a people person from, like I said, in the past, being promoter. So I introduced myself as a photographer, and eventually I went to all the free shows that I possibly could go to, just to learn and get the experience. And like I said, I went with somebody, or either I met them there, that could kind of like, give me a few pointers and stuff like that if I ever got into a jam. And after that, I concentrated on my work, making sure that I presented a quality picture, whether it's on social media or somebody just wanted to take a quick glance at my camera just to see the type of picture that I took. Because sometimes you only get one shot, 1 second, or that few minutes to show your work in advance. After that, I began to finding out how to apply to the more bigger fashion shows for New York Fashion Week. And as I went to those shows, I met the designers and stuff like that, or definitely the show producers, because the show producers who run the show, and they could say yay or nay in regards to whether they wanted you to actually be in their photography page.
Okay. So that's fabulous. And it's good that it seems like you've done a variety of type of, photography. So that's good. I mean, fashion is great. And you've done other stuff like, in the studio and things like that. So
Right.
I think that's really good. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking with Paul Andre Walker, professional photographer. We have to speak with our sponsors, but we'll be right back in just a moment. gentlemen, we are back on Fashion Avenue News TV, where only the best will do. And we're speaking with Paul Andre Walker, professional photographer, and we're getting all of the creative info. Now, Paul, what is editorial photography to you?
Okay, editorial photography to me is it's like almost telling a story through the designer's garments, with the model, with how she moved, the location. And once you see it, it's like almost you want to be envisioned to almost be there with that model, or you feel that you are there right on set watching her live. And again, you have to display that through your work because you're not writing or talking about it.
Exactly. Great. And what about commercial photography?
Commercial photography, people have to realize that when you're doing commercial print work and stuff like that, sometimes it's more about the product than the actual model. So depending on what it is, if it's print modeling, it's a makeup sponsor and stuff like that, that photographers have to realize, and the models have to realize also that you look good in your makeup, but it's not about you. And that's no disrespect or anything like that. We just have to pinpoint the importance of the commercial or print photo shoot that we're doing.
Well, I love that because I know that you just did something with a couple of makeup companies that were commercial photography, and you did an amazing job. We actually had the opportunity to have one, and I believe it was Model World, and you did
Matter of fact, I think I might just have it. It's Beauty Boss.
All right. Yes, that was amazing. Beauty Boss, that was amazing because you did something on product modeling and you had a lovely model. You had great product and you styled it and you did a whole bunch of work there. So that commercial photography really, really looked amazing. And I know that the product company was extremely happy. So I think that that is fabulous. Now, we talked a little bit about when someone starts out, and you talked about, things that they might need to have. Talk a little bit about lighting. How important is lighting? Because we touched on it, but I think that actually lighting makes the photo. So talk a little bit about lighting. I see you're all lit up here.
Yes, I have my lighting. You might not be able to see it, but like I said, what you do, you have to display through your picture. So, like you said, in regards to lighting, you see that I have good lighting because you see my picture, my face, and it's lit up. You might not be able to see my lighting because it's in front of me, but I do have lighting.
Yes, well, we can see you, so we know you have lighting, and that's very good because sometimes when you do interviews and stuff, people just don't realize how important the lighting is because they can't see it yet. Then when they see it without the light, they're like, oh, I should have lit myself. So it's important that photographers understand that lighting kind of like is key or is king, so to speak.
Right. And I think that, not for nothing, even though photographers should definitely have lighting, if you're a designer, you're a show producer, it doesn't hurt to have a small lighting kit in case of emergency. Because
right.
If you're doing some type of interview, or say the photographer forgot his lighting, or God forbid, if he wasn't prepared, that you have a plan B, because the worst thing is to do a shoot, have you hire a photographer and you want them to do a photo shoot or even a couple of pictures and they don't come out properly because of the light.
Right, because now you waste your time and the photographer's time as well. So
Okay.
lighting is the key. Now, you work with a lot of different magazines. I mean, you submit to different magazines, you've been on coverage, you've gotten published. And just recently, like in the last, part of 2020, you were killing it with these editorials getting published. And I was like, wait a minute, this is fabulous. So, talk a little bit about what it takes to build that type of relationship, whether or not you have a relationship with the magazine or you just want to submit. They may not know you, but you want to submit. What is that, kind of like process?
Well, again, it all goes back to the presentation that you given to the magazine without you even speaking to them or if they don't know you. Two, it's always important. You have to know the demographics of the magazine and what they're looking for. As we all know, there's 1,000,001 fashion magazines out there. They have different forms of submissions. They have different looks that they more catered to. Some is more urban. I prefer far as the high fashion, the glamour, the couture and stuff like that, because that's what I'm most familiar with and love to shoot. So you need, as they say, you need to know your audience, which the audience is obviously what the magazine caters to. So once you know that, then you kind of least have a foot in to where to start at. So that's what I believe.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking with professional photographer and cover man, because he gives covers. Okay. Editorial specialist. Okay. Because he gets those editorials. And like I said, in the latter part of 2020, honey, he was killing it. He was getting those covers. He was getting editorials and across the board with numerous fabulous magazines. We're going to talk to our sponsors. We'll be right back. And ladies and gentlemen, we're back on Fashion Avenue News TV, and we are talking to professional photographer Paul Andre Walker. Paul, a lot of photographers, they plan shoots, they do things. I mean, I'm sure there's a process to it. Talk about the mood board for those type of things. How does that help a photographer?
Well, the mood board is very important because it gives you, it gives you the mood that you want to shoot, that you're focusing on. And also, it gives the model an idea. If you're conversing back and forth with the designer or the magazine owner, they have an idea what you're looking at or your idea and focusing on. And then it always can be fine-tuned, or y'all can brainstorm back and forth so that everybody can be on the same page. Because if you just go out and just do a shoot, it's like you shooting in a blue dress, but the magazine is looking for a model in the red dress. Even though the blue dress might be good, the model is beautiful, but that's not what they wanted. And you might have a good chance of not being published just because you didn't set the mood for a red dress.
And you're absolutely right, because a mood board gives the model idea what's happening. It's a direction so the magazine can see, what's happening. And, again, all of this is important so that at the end you come out with what you want, which is a good shoot.
Right.
Now, let's talk about an editorial calendar. A lot of photographers submit to magazines not realizing that the magazine has an editorial calendar. Now, a lot of magazines will tell you when you submit that you don't have to per se follow an editorial calendar, but it's important to look at it. Talk a little bit about how important the editorial calendar is, and do you follow them?
The editorial calendar is very important, especially to high-end magazines or certain magazines, because they have a format, and if they have an editorial calendar, that means they're doing it for a reason, and obviously it works for them. You know, if January is, I'm just saying, weddings, okay, so you shouldn't be submitting nothing else but weddings for that particular month. And not for nothing that they might not say it, but if you're not following instructions, let's say, then that's not really a good way to present yourself without the person knowing you, because you sending pictures of summer wear or mink coat, and like I said again, it's weddings, and it's like, well, do they really know what an editorial calendar is, or they just doing their own thing? And it's never a good idea to try to do your own thing when you're trying to get published in somebody else's magazine.
Exactly. And this is the purpose of the editorial calendar anyway, is to just give you a guide so that when you submit, you have more of an opportunity to be published.
Right.
What makes a good model? What do you think makes a good model? We know you have a lot of model friends, and you're always telling them this and that. What makes a good model?
Well, that's a very good question. Models have to realize that, you're modeling how you carry yourself, what you wear, how you look when you're not on the runway. All that's a representation of you, because one, you never know who's looking. Two, you might not have a second chance to get a first impression. So it's very important that you look a certain way. When I look for models, I have a certain criteria. It's nothing wrong. That's just my preference. I look for a certain height, a certain size, a certain weight, so on and so forth, because I know that the particular garments that I'm shooting is those particular sizes. It has nothing to do with short models, extra tall models, or curvy or plus size models, unless I'm catering to that specific size or look. So I go to model social media, I look at their pages, I see whether or not if they have recent content, if they still relevant. Perfect example that, with this pandemic, it's a struggle for everybody, and especially models, photographers, and stuff like that. But I say at the end of the day, and I'm not just saying it, magazines are still printing. So fashion industry, even though there's might not be no New York Fashion Week per se for people to come out and see, but every month magazines is constantly printing, and they're always looking for editorials. And they have, if they don't have their editorial calendar up with immediate access, they still have a theme or a concept that they're looking for that particular month.
That's true.
So I look for models who potentially can fit that category, and then I present what I want to do to them, and they must take what I do serious. Not only that, they must be serious. I can't force you to be serious or want to, as they say, level up your brand or stay relevant. You have to want to do that. Me personally, I'm always going to find a way to stay relevant in the fashion industry, because fashion is not going anywhere, and I have too much invested in it to stop.
Okay, and that's absolutely right. even though some people are doing virtual or whatever, we're still out here pumping it out. Us, the magazine owners, the editors and stuff, we're still publishing. We still have issues coming out. We're, blogging, and we're doing all of that. So I think it's important that models are, serious, like you say, about what they're doing, and they stay relevant. And even though it's a pandemic, it's still a way that you could shoot a photo session or something like that. And you should still invest in yourself. You shouldn't just sit back and say, oh, it's a pandemic, I can't do anything. And speaking of that, how important is a model's social media? I mean, you touched on it just now, but how important is that in your decision to use someone in a photo shoot or not?
Well, like I said, I go to their social media, and I tell models all the time that one, if your page is blocked, then I'm going to the next model or the next search uh, engine, as they say. Because if you're a model and you got your page blocked, how do you expect people to see your work? Now, if you got personal things you don't want people to see, then I always advise models to make a separate page for modeling only. And to be honest, when I go to your page, that's all I want to see. I don't, I love pets, I love birds, I love grandmothers, I love food and stuff like that. But I'm not looking to see what you did in the kitchen or where you was at the club last night and so on and so forth. That's your personal business. I'm here to see how you look as a fashion, as an editorial model. A lot of models don't understand that, but that's very important. And let alone me not going to your page or moving forward, I'm pretty sure magazine owners and fashion producers, they don't have time to wait for a friend request and wait, unblock them and stuff like that. And again, I understand if you got personal issues or even personal problems, then you need to figure out a better solution than having your modeling page blocked.
Excellent.
If their page is not professional in regards to, I can understand you're a model and you don't have a lot of editorials or not a photo shoot and stuff like that. But you need to find somebody with a camera so you can have that one-on-one experience, that hands-on experience, and get some type of work up so people can see.
Exactly.
Selfies is nice, but selfies don't determine whether I'm gonna invite you or ask you, or are you interested in doing a photo shoot and stuff like that. I go to some models' pages, they got 100 selfies of them and all over the place in regards to sometimes, unfortunately, middle fingers up in the air and all type of stuff that's very unprofessional. And again, I can't tell you how to run your page, but I know how I'm gonna run my business because this is my business.
That's right. Photography is your business. And, if you're dealing with someone that may not seem professional, you have to move on.
Right.
So, getting to that, how should a model prepare for a photo shoot? You do photo shoots all the time, whether it's outside, inside, in a studio, outside of a studio, in the park, on a boat. You do photo shoots all the time. How should a model prepare?
Well, they should definitely have what's called a model bag. Now, in regards to the model bag, that consists of nude underwear, black underwear, white underwear. And when I say those colors, that's a complete set. They should also, I tell all models, please make sure your nails and your toenails are either nude or neutral color.
Right.
That way that goes with everything. Please bring, wipes. Especially if it's a long day, sometimes you get a little sweaty and stuff like that. Also make sure you if it's a photo shoot in regards to, I'm just saying, lingerie or swimsuit, you want to make sure that you're shaved. You know, it's important that you're shaved under arms in the proper places and stuff like that, because all that stuff shows up in the shoot.
That's true.
And it's much harder to edit when you're trying to edit, you know, these things that should have been done in advance. So those are some of the things that I tell them. I tell them when we're doing this shoot, please schedule a day that you don't have nothing else planned. Because me personally, I don't like rushing. You know, I don't want to do a photo shoot where I got to be conscious of, you know, the model she got to go shopping. She got to do X, Y, and Z. She got to do the laundry. She got so much things to do, because models don't realize that time flies. You think 2 or 3 hours is enough time? Sometimes it's nowhere near enough time. 5, 6 hours can go by very easily, and you might not even realize it. And you're more focused on trying to run out of there, and then that shows in the model's face and how she's modeling, because that means she's not concentrating.
Right. She's focusing on what's coming next, opposed to the shoot at hand right now.
Right.
And I think that that's important that you say clear your schedule, make sure you have enough time to devote to the photo shoot.
Right.
Now, last but not least, we're getting down to our last few questions. You shot some wonderful, wonderful nude photos, and I love them. I think nude is beautiful as long as it's done in a tasteful manner and edited properly. How do you, one, make a model comfortable shooting nude? Because you're a man, and everybody, may not be comfortable. How do you make someone comfortable shooting a nude photo shoot?
Well, again, I start off letting them know the idea that I want to do.
Okay.
I tell them whether it's for a campaign, whether it's for a promotion for something. So I explain to them that that's what it's for. 2, please check my work on social media, and hopefully that my work will speak for itself. I also let them know that in regards to my focus is not on you being nude, or you got a nice shape and stuff like that, because that's a given if we're looking to do a photo shoot in regards to a model being nude. I try to make them feel as comfortable as possible. Also let them know, obviously it's going to be indoors because of the weather. If they want to bring somebody with them, they are more than welcome to do that. If they have any questions or they need any references or the magazine that I'm shooting it for, I supply that as well. So I try to make them feel as comfortable as possible. So that way they know it's not about me as a photographer seeing a model nude versus me trying to get the best shot possible in what we're doing, whether it's nude and the legs being elongated, or they set up in a certain position where all they curves show their attributes and stuff like that, where when you put it next to a perfume bottle or a fashion bag, that everything pops, and whoever's looking at it, it gives them the wow factor and wish they have thought of that as well.
All right. Well, you've done some wonderful ones, and I'm always impressed when I see them because they're creative. Like, you really don't even realize the model's new because you're looking at the creativity. And right. I think that is the real key in shooting nudes. Like, the body is secondary to the product. So I compliment you on that, and that you do a wonderful job. Now, last but not least, our last question: what inspiration can you give to either someone that wants to go into photography, someone that's in photography, or, even people in the fashion industry that deal with photographers like models and stuff? Inspiration.
Well, in regards to the photographers, I always say that find your own rhythm. Find out what works for you. Don't worry about being competitive with nobody else. Find out what works for you, because what works for other people doesn't necessarily work for you. Just because another photographer got a $10,000 camera, that don't mean you go out and get one, because it might
Yeah.
not serve the same purpose rather. And like I said, as they say, you need to stay in your lane and figure out what speed you need to go to get where you need to be. In regards to models, I tell models all the time that, one, if you ever have a bad experience, hopefully it's not so detrimental that you want to give up modeling.
Mhm.
It's a learning process. I want all my models, even photographers, everybody to stay safe and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But, you got to check people references. And like I said, main thing is they work speaks for themselves. On my social media, you'll never see a blurry page. I don't care if it's Halle Berry, whoever. I'm not going to put up a blurry picture just because it's that particular person or somebody famous, or that's the only shot that I got of that picture. I might be a little upset or mad that I didn't get a better shot, but you definitely won't see it on my social media. Models
Mhm.
have to realize that you don't worry about another model. You don't worry about how she walk, how she talk. And in this industry, you got to have thick skin. Everybody not going to like you. Everybody not going to like the way you walk, like you way to talk. And some going to, as they say, smile you in the face and talk about you behind your back. But if you're doing the best that you can, using common sense, want to elevate your brand, and
Mhm.
just, as they say, choose your things, your photo shoots, your photographers wisely, then you should be all right, and never be afraid to ask questions. And
Yeah.
you don't necessarily know, but you would like to know.
Well, I think that's good and sound advice. And, I think following some of the things that you have said today, people can't help but excel in the fashion industry, whether it's photography, modeling, any of those things, because the things that you did share today are educational. And I think people can take it and run with it because it'll really work for them. I
You
want
have,
to thank you so. Mhm.
no, I'm sorry. Any, in this business, whether you're a photographer, a designer, a show producer, a model, you have to have a passion for it. You have to love it and want to do it all day, every day, even if you didn't make a dime from it. You have to love what you do, because eventually the financial aspect of it will pay off, because your hard work will prevail at the end.
All right. Well, I think that that's fabulous. I want to thank you so much for taking time to speak with us today at Fashion Avenue News TV, where only the best will do.
Thank
I'm
you.
speaking with Paul Andre Walker, professional photographer, cover man, editorial guy. He is just amazing. And I thank you so much, Paul, for talking with us today on Fashion Avenue News. And we'll see you next week.